My irresponsible sister-in-law accused me of stealing her child, reported me to the police, and threw a party in my home, but she forgot about my cameras. My husband is my soulmate. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. He checked all my boxes and still checks them 7 years into our marriage. His family is amazing as well, but of course, there has to be a thorn in my flesh. Dave's younger sister. I wonder how that apple fell so far from the tree. She is nothing like the rest of her peace-loving family. It's like her presence attracts trouble. She is defiant in every sense of the word. Everyone hopes she comes to her senses before life teaches her a severe lesson. At 18, she was actively looking toward getting pregnant and having a baby. This is someone who had never worked a day in her life and didn't know what it meant to care for another person. She didn't want to go to college, which is not a problem for me because you don't have to go to college to succeed. The issue was that she didn't want to do anything at all. She didn't want to work, but had a sense of entitlement to everyone's money as the baby of the house. At first, I thought she was kidding about wanting a baby, but it shocked us when she called us together to announce her pregnancy. She expected us to be so excited for her and got upset because we were not. I mean, how could we be? Who wanted to take care of a child and her child, because that's precisely what she was. The next 9 months were hilarious. Of course, the guy who got her pregnant was not in the picture, and according to her, he is inconsequential. I hope she can explain that to her child when they ask questions. I wonder how someone can make so many mistakes all at once and call it living life. At the moment, her family has expressed their disapproval several times. Dad didn't do much to sway her from her ways. Her family is very wealthy, but I'm sure they were given a good upbringing because her other siblings turned out well. They are all responsible and doing well for themselves, except for her. 4 months into her pregnancy, she was already over it and was looking for the next thing to excite her. If only it registered in her brain that it was a lifetime commitment when the baby was out. If only she knew that she doesn't get breaks from being a mom even when the kids are grown. She gave birth to the cutest baby girl. Once I saw her, I fell in love with her. I was just a little sad that she would have to see her mom grow into a responsible adult, which meant that she would make many mistakes. My heart went to the child, mainly because I had only one child, and we have been trying for more. My job was very flexible, and I didn't mind stepping in to care for Ariel when needed. My sister-in-law noticed that I enjoyed caring for her child, so when she was 6 months old, she started leaving her overnight. At first, it was very subtle, like, "Oh, I'm coming in really late, can Ariel stay over?" Then we moved to her dropping her off with me and not coming for her. It wasn't a problem for me, but I would have preferred if she was honest with me, though I doubt her pride would let her. We started taking her there when Ariel could go to daycare because I grew busier at work. At that stage, Ariel needed constant attention and supervision. I would sometimes pick her up when my sister-in-law wasn't available, or when she forgot her at daycare and someone called. On a fateful day, I was finishing work when someone called me to say that they had been trying to reach Ariel's mom but couldn't, and asked if I was related and that I should come and pick her up. I was so upset because it was evening, and Ariel should have been picked up hours ago. It was no longer fun, and I was tired of her irresponsibility. Because of traffic, I took her to my house instead of going to her mom's. Honestly, it just felt safer for Ariel because only God knows where her mom went. I didn't text or call my sister-in-law because I was busy and annoyed at her for forgetting her child again. The craziest thing happened. My sister-in-law reported me for stealing her child, and the police came for me. It felt like a movie with the actors all jumbled up. How was I the problem here? She should be detained for leaving her child several times and being an irresponsible mother. It so happened that my husband wasn't around that night because he had traveled for some business. Something wasn't adding up because my sister-in-law acted as though she didn't usually give me her child, or that I had any permission at all to take care of her. The police also came late. She must not have just noticed that her child had gone missing, according to her. The next day, her mom came to get me and apologized on her daughter's behalf. She was so distraught about how her daughter was getting out of hand. She had become a nuisance that only wanted her way and caused trouble whenever she didn't get it. When I got home that morning, my house was upside down. It was like a massive party at my house, and that's when it clicked. My husband had told me about a party before he traveled that his sister wanted to have at our house, which he refused. She had planned the whole thing well and found a way to get me out of the house so she could have her party. I needed something to prove it to the police. Since she could report me to the police and make me stay there for hours for nothing, I would do the same to her. Only this time, she would get into real trouble because I'm the one with the truth. I checked our CCTV cameras, and all the evidence I needed was there. They had a good time in my house, and my sister-in-law kept bragging about how genius she was and that her master plan worked. She said she knew I would easily fall into her trap because I was obsessed with her child. She knew I would come for Ariel, and her plans were set in motion once I did. I reported to the police that there may have been a break-in or a party while I was gone. They came, and I made sure to show the evidence. The police picked her up, and now she is in more trouble because they would question her ability to care for her child. I know she didn't think this through, but I'm not going to keep encouraging her crazy behavior. So if something like her child being taken away would make her change, then so be it. Even though I know if that were to happen, I would step in to take Ariel because I love her so much, though I won't say this to anyone. As I suspected, the police got a social worker involved, and they don't think she can take care of Ariel after doing their independent investigations. My husband was upset at his sister. He couldn't believe she would pull that kind of stunt. This was real life and not a playroom. He was upset that I got detained, even though it was for a few hours. He gave the police all the information they needed to vindicate me and implicate his sister. He was done covering up for her behavior and thought she needed to learn a lesson. Mother-in-law, on the other hand, wasn't happy with my husband and me. She said I could have been the bigger person and that my sister-in-law was just looking for some fun, so I could have indulged her. As far as I was concerned, mother-in-law wasn't making any sense. She reported me to the police and they detained me for Christ's sake. That goes into my records, even though I didn't do anything wrong, so that was no joke. My sister-in-law was an adult, and it was high time everyone saw her as one and treated her as such. It dawned on me that we could have enabled her behavior because we kept making excuses for her or stepping in to help her with many shortcomings. This has landed her in trouble. If I didn't report it to the police, she would still have gotten herself into this predicament some other way. This was bound to happen. My husband and I had an interview with the social workers since we volunteered to be Ariel's guardians. It went well for us, but not for my sister-in-law. She didn't realize what she was doing and the mess she created because she wanted her way. She was upset with me and tried to fight me several times. She said I had always wanted to take Ariel from her because I thought she didn't deserve to be her mother and that I had finally succeeded. My husband stepped in to put her in her place wherever she was going overboard. She was throwing tantrums everywhere, and everyone who knew her knew they needed to stay out of her way if they didn't want to become her problem for the day. My husband spoke to his mom, who still blamed me. He told her she had the right to say, "Oh," she said to me, and she was one of the reasons my sister-in-law turned out the way she did. He told her that she always allowed her to have her way and do things she would have never allowed him and his other siblings to do while they were growing up. It was a big fight between my husband and his mom, but some things needed to be said, and some boundaries sat so everyone knew their place and did not cross it. My mother-in-law was looking for someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. I do not feel bad for reporting my sister-in-law to the police. In fact, it serves her right. Aita, NTA. Your sister-in-law got what she was looking for. She knew she wasn't responsible, and she brought the police to find that out. You did nothing wrong, and your mother-in-law needs to chill. YTA. You knew this could break your sister-in-law, but you did it anyway. I agree with your mother-in-law. It was easy to be the bigger person. It looks like you really want her child for yourself, so though she had a plan, you had your master plan to take her child away. Full disclosure, I'm 47, male, never witnessed anything myself, and don't really know these people. Everything I'm about to write comes from what my wife, 39, has told me. The situation is about the neighbors directly across the street. They've moved in a couple of years ago and are a young couple. If I had to guess, I think they're in their early 30s. We wave to each other when we see each other and have said hi a few times, but I don't know their names. I'll just call them Bob and Susan. Apparently, Bob leaves for work earlier and comes home later than Susan. My wife has a hybrid schedule where she works part of the week at the office and part of it at home. Her home office is in the front of our house and looks directly into the house across the street. Recently, she's been telling me that when she works from home, she sees a man visiting the neighbor's house, either after Bob leaves for work or before he comes home. She swears she once saw adult activities between this stranger and Susan because their curtains were open. First, it was just humorous, but as the weeks pass, my wife has gotten more and more agitated with the situation. She wanted me to talk to Bob to tell him what's going on, to which I refused because it's not our problem, and we don't know if they have an arrangement. Then she started to take pics on her phone to show me the car and the guy. It was almost a fight to make her delete the pics. Now the agitation has turned into full-blown anger at me. Basically, she's mad that I'm not more concerned with Susan cheating on Bob. I told her I have our lives to live. I simply don't care what goes on in their house. This answer angered her so much that she slept in the guest bedroom for a couple of nights. I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong by minding my own business, but I also slept alone for a couple of nights. Thanks for all your opinions. I'll answer some of the questions you all been asking. Why did I make her delete the pics? I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the laws regarding taking people's pics without their consent. I figured it's safest to not have them if things get out of hand and we get sued for invading privacy. We don't have money to waste on hiring a lawyer. Why doesn't my wife tell her? Themselves? She's an introvert and not comfortable with talking to someone who she doesn't know. Also, I'm guessing that she thinks it's my job as a man to tell another man the bad news. For those who think I'm ta and why won't I get involved, I watched enough news to know that a domestic situation is the most dangerous any cop will face in their career. Cops are scared to go in with tools and backup. I'll be alone as the messenger. Also, where we live, neighbors just don't get into other neighbors' businesses. Every year, there's a story on the news about some neighbor getting hurt or worse by telling their neighbor to turn down the music or don't cuss in front of children. These incidents are very common where we live. I don't need a hammer to my face. The comments about my wife thinking I'm okay with infidelity really opened my eyes. I never thought of that before, and I'm grateful for this insight. I will be talking to her about this, NTA. However, your wife may take your disinterest in the neighbors' lives to mean that you are okay with infidelity. This could create problems in your relationship. I would first sit down and let the wife articulate how she feels and listen to her ideas for notifying Bob. I will then talk through the possible unintended consequences of getting involved in others' relationships, violence, so-called crimes of passion, etc. If she's still insistent that you get involved to notify Bob, then you might seek a third party to talk to, like a marriage counselor, for this one issue. An uninvolved party may help clear the air. NTA. Is this real? Do some people not understand that sometimes people know their spouses have side relationships? Or they're interfering in other people's extramarital affairs is how you end up on Dateline. Just to be clear, if Ding Dong Dash is country specific, I'm talking about when children ring doorbells and run away. I, female, 29, am a stay-at-home mom with a sick toddler and a newborn at the moment. My husband, 31, took some time off work when the baby was born but has since gone back, so it is just the babies in the house day to day. Safe to say, I'm not particularly well rested at the moment, and the house is a bit chaotic. Today, being Saturday, my husband said that he would help me catch up on some of the chores while I got some rest. I was really grateful. It has been a tough week. Unfortunately, some kids in the neighborhood must have taken advantage of the good weather and fought to play Ding Dong Dash. The first incident was funny. The second time was mildly irritating, but I was downright frustrated by the sixth time. The baby and the toddler were both woken, disturbed each time, and I didn't get any of the rest that I was so looking forward to. I decided that I would help my husband with chores, seeing as I was up anyway. The seventh Ding Dong Dash just so happened to be when I was vacuuming the hallway, so I got to the door before the kids were gone. There were two young boys, I would say 6 or 7, and they got a massive shock when I opened the door. To be clear, I was firm, but I was by no means shouting or hostile. I asked them what they thought was funny about disturbing my family, and one of them responded that I was not their mom. I said back, I am not, but I don't think she would want to be disturbed either. After that, they turned and ran away. It was a very brief interaction. Later, a man identifying himself as the boy's dad knocked on the door and said I made the boys cry. He said that it was children being children. They weren't hurting anyone. And my comment about their mom being disturbed was uncalled for, seeing as she had passed away. He said that I made them both cry all afternoon, and they are afraid of playing in the neighborhood anymore. He also said that he could not believe I lay in wait for them. I explained that I was sick and tired of the doorbell going off, but he said that I should just disarm it if some ringing disturbs my family that much. I feel like I am entitled to a doorbell, but that I shouldn't have to deal with constant ringing. NTA. What was that monster of a man going on about? His brat child and his brat friends were harassing you. They should never have started with this game and cannot continue doing it. He should be embarrassed and ashamed that he cannot manage his children. He's raising awful, rotten little brats. Clearly, that man is not playing with a full deck. He should have come around to apologize and ask the children to apologize as well. I'm sorry, but there is nothing silly and cute about kids harassing neighbors. Triple D is not kids being kids. It's rude and disruptive. IDC that he's widowed and the kids have no mother. He's probably lying, but if he's not, there's a sign that he needs to man up and be a parent. Those kids need help. Letting them run around the neighborhood terrorizing people is doing them no favors. NTA. The father of the boys is in awe. I find it odd that children that age are allowed to run the neighborhood without any supervision. That I find very concerning. He is a bigger to justify what the kids were doing. They were trespassing and not only bothering a family with a newborn, they could be bothering someone bedridden, sick, disabled, or whatever makes it difficult to answer the door. I used to work nights in a hospital and sleep days. His inability to parent his children is no excuse to disturb people. If a 6- and 7-year-old are roaming the streets without supervision, I would think CPS should be called. There are a lot of missing children that have never been found that were unsupervised when they went missing. NTA. They cried because you confronted them. Their dad was basically asking, how can you be better when my kids are wrong? Dad and his kids need to learn that people do not have to put up with them inflicting themselves onto others or their property, person, or space. And don't let the dad guilt trip you into feeling bad about interacting with his children the way you did because of the passing of his wife. Their mother has nothing to do with the situation. He should have corrected his children and come to apologize, not ask how can you be better when his kids are not being considerate of someone else or their property. Cheers, babe. Hope you get so much needed rest from one stay-at-home mom to another.